Hello. Today we're talking astrology, and today we're talking the Aries solar eclipse. You're here with Jenny Monks, and this eclipse is occurring on the 8th or the 9th of April, depending on where you are in the world. This eclipse is taking place in the sign of Aries. It's a new moon, and it's at 19 degrees of Aries. This eclipse is occurring in Sydney local time in Australia on Tuesday morning at 4 something or other. So we're talking about a new moon, we're talking about a solar eclipse, which is on the one hand about new beginnings, about planting seeds for what you might want to invite into your life over the next month. Because this one is a solar eclipse, it's got more of a power punch to it. You may have been feeling in the past couple of weeks a sense of single-mindedness, almost an obsessive quality, an urgency even, but a very intense kind of energy to focus on one thing or get something done, or like I said, obsessive, just really, really concentrated and focused energy. Some of the brilliantness that is Aries. And so if you've been feeling that, that's great if it's working the right direction. If it's going in a direction that is perhaps in the shadow terrains, then it's nice to reel that in. You can certainly get things done with that energy. You can achieve things, you can kick goals, you can initiate new projects, new ideas, etc. So intense is the word. So often when I come on videos, I seem to use that term. Intense, obsessive, like a driven quality where you're driven to work on something, get something done, start something new, whatever it is, however it's applying in your own life, it's got that real single-minded focus. And the eclipse is, if it's touching in your own chart, which it may or may not, this eclipse could leave you completely cold and won't notice any impact on your own life. For other people, where it's triggering important points in their charts, they can well have a significant life event go on, or just be feeling the energies, the archetypal energies really, really personally. So let's get into it. What's happening with this eclipse? It's pretty hectic, it's like it's got a few things going on. It's squared by Ceres, which I'll talk about in a minute. It is conjunct, so it's Sun, Moon in Aries at 19 degrees, and they're conjunct the North Node and also Chiron. So there's a lot of important activity happening here, which collectively is impacting all of us, and for some people individually, it's extremely impacting your own life. You'd need to get an astrology chart reading done or follow the degrees if you know how to do that to find out what is happening in your own chart. Usually in life though, I find that your life itself is demonstrating how well or how closely your chart has been activated. It literally does, quite literally, show up in your own life, in the time building up to it particularly. So an eclipse, new beginnings, whoopie-doo. Does that mean everything's going to happen at once? No, absolutely not. It's not like you can make a decision on this day and suddenly everything changes in your life. Some things that you want to initiate and start will take time to unfold. You might need to do groundwork, you might need to do preparation kind of stuff before you can actually kick it in. Doesn't mean it's not happening, it's just got more of a long-term vibe to it. And this eclipse, according to some people, will have a lasting impression on us for like another 4 years, because the eclipse goes for 4 minutes. And the countries that can actually see this solar eclipse are Mexico, United States, and bits of Canada. So if you live in those regions, check out your local newspapers or Google search, whatever. They will tell you exactly which towns the pathway of the eclipse is traversing across. Good to know if you live in those areas. And just on that, some people get a little bit excited about whether you should do a ritual when there's eclipse involved, if you should physically be watching it, assuming it's on offer in your local area, if you should be out there watching it, you know, in the sky or not. And everyone's got different takes on it. My thing really is, I'm happy to watch eclipses, but that's me. But my thing is listen to your own intuition. If your intuition is to not do any kind of ritual for this new moon because it's got that intense eclipse energy, listen to that. And by the same token, if you're under the path of the solar eclipse and you want to go out and have a look at it and your sense is that's all good, then do it. Go out there and enjoy it, I say. So while we're talking about that type of thing, before we get into the pure astrology, let's just mention a few ideas that are relevant with an eclipse. One is, because the energies can be really intense and hectic, if you need to take some downtime for yourself, some me time, some rest time, if you can clear your schedule, particularly if you know that your chart's been activated, if you can clear your schedule at least on the day of the eclipse, possibly even day before, day after sort of thing. You know, give yourself a week off if you can. I understand that's completely not feasible for most people. They literally can't just take a week off and down tools and go, no, I'm sitting in Zen for the eclipse. Nothing will disturb my Zen. Almost nobody can do that. If you've got the option, go for it and enjoy it. You'll probably get some really good juicy bits of revelations come through and new insights. Sorry about that, I just bumped the camera. And I was saying some juicy bits of revelations and insights might come through. So, self-care, if you need to sleep more, do. If you need to drink more water, do. A lot of people are talking about ascension symptoms at the moment, being really raised because of all the energies that are coming through. In the zeitgeist, I'm hearing a lot about ancestral healing, so that might be coming up for you too. So it's a new moon, which is initiating new ideas, planting new seeds, having a little bit of a think, perhaps writing out some of your intentions for the month. These are all possible. Activities you can do to seize hold of some of the energies that are occurring at this time. If you want to do a ritual, throw some fire in it. Aries is a lovely fiery sign. So we've talked for a moment about Aries and the kind of energies that can be coming up. Let's go through the list super quick. You've probably heard it 1,000 times from many other astrologers before you got to mine. But here we go. Leadership. So there's a sense of get up and go and get out there and do it. And maybe not even think that much before you act, right? That can be a shadow with Aries. But there's certainly get up and go, and there's courage. There's, this thing of, I want to go and do this. I've never ever done it before. I don't have a clue how to do it. I need courage just to even take the first step along that pathway. Keep that in mind as you're navigating these energies. If something comes up and you think, yeah, I really do need or want to act on this, but I don't know how to do it. I've never done it before. I've got to step into the beginner's mind and foster up some courage from the depths of me, which I don't even know where that's going to come from, but bring forth some courage. Unfortunately, the celestial forces are offering all sorts of energy there to help you. Bring forward some courage to help me initiate, to help me start, to help me take the leap of faith. So ultimately, we're all looking at the archetype where it's about leadership. And I don't just mean out there on the world stage with government leaders and business leaders and any of that. I mean leadership in our own life. So there's an element of, seizing control of your own life and saying, this is not a time to be passive. I'm going to make concrete steps to reorientate my life in new ways, or set off on new adventures, or show up in different ways in my life. And I will be the leader of my life, and it will be based upon my authentic self, and I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. Pull up my big girl pants and get out there and go, this is me. This is me. We might come back to that point a little bit later. So new moon, sun, moon, Chiron, and the North Node all together. It's a lot of energies. North Node is kind of where we're headed in life, you know, ideas, dreams that we want to move towards to manifest in our lives. Chiron is almost always referred to as the wounded healer, is the shaman, the teacher, the mentor, quite a multi-skilled child of the universe was Chiron. And in our own charts, we mostly, there's a few ways of looking at different celestial bodies, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to talk about Chiron in terms of how we can have deep core wounds within us, usually from early childhood, that never seem to heal. They seem to stay with us throughout our entire life, and over time we learn to manage them, or we don't. We might be in complete denial, or it might be completely out of our awareness, out of our conscious awareness that this wound is even there. And the thing is, those sorts of wounds tend to drive us a bit. Like we make decisions based upon not wanting that tender spot to get triggered and not wanting something, you know, that vulnerability to be exposed. So it actually, there's an unconscious element where our lives are shaped in different ways because of that wound, if we haven't made some attempt or a full attempt at actually healing it and reworking it. And then the beauty, of course, is that it is that quintessential alchemy where the wound goes from being something that is slowing you down, in making your life smaller, making yourself smaller, in this case with Aries, but ultimately can be turned and then shared with other people as a teaching or a healing for other people, where they can gain the benefits of what you've been through with it. So that is the beautiful alchemy with Chiron. So in Aries, it's about your sense of self, your sense of identity, with the North Node, looking to change or adapt your sense of identity, or show up in new ways in society, or show up in new ways in your family, show up in new ways, bring different parts of yourself forward that have been previously hidden away. Perhaps you didn't particularly know that part of you was there, and it's recently kind of shown up for you, and you go, oh, I can do such and such like that. I'm thinking of things like DNA that hasn't been activated, and when it does get activated, suddenly new skills and talents are open to you that you literally didn't have access to before. Some of that might be going on in your thinking. You might be wanting to come out, you might be wanting to show up differently, certainly in your life, but in public or in your family, and it can even just be how, depending on which house it's in your chart. As with all things in astrology, it has to be customized for you. I'm only speaking generally. So with Chiron and Aries, it can be that within yourself, you are just starting to emerge. A new identity is emerging within you, and perhaps nobody else is even aware of it. And will it show up in your life in terms of the way you interact with other people? Or it could show up in your career, or you know, how you go about doing things out in public. There's all sorts of ways it can show up. But think in terms of an emerging. So you're not confident about it yet. You're not quite completely sure-footed about it yet. There can be that fear there because it's new, it's emerging. You don't fully know what it's going to look like. You don't know if you did something today, you don't know in 2 years' time what the consequences of that are going to be on your life, positive or negative, right? So this emergence is a kind of a vulnerable, gentle space to be in. So be mindful of that in terms of, there can be times when you might feel like you need to go and get it done and do it and just do it, right? And other times when you kind of go, oh, I want to go, but there's a part of me that's a bit scared. I think I'll do this, but I'm really not quite sure. So if you feel that kind of backwards and forwards movement, it is part of you getting comfortable with this emerging part of you, and that's okay. Be all right with that. Accept that. As I said, this isn't something that will happen in 24 hours. This is a slow burn. This is a long-term emergence that can happen over time, depending on which area it's going on for you personally. But it can be a long-term emergence, which is gradual and slow, or fast and bang, 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 it's done, right? It can happen either way. And another factor I wanted to bring in there, just in terms of that sense of being a bit of a scaredy cat about fearful and anxiety about showing up in this new way, right? Completely valid and common and normal responses to change and to going somewhere you haven't been before. That is part of the North Node. Stepping into horizons, trailblazing in your own life and into new areas that you've never done before. Why would you be confident about it? So Saturn and Mars in Pisces are conjunct pretty well for this new moon as well, for this solar eclipse. And I think that's really helpful in terms of that sense of, I've got this urgency to get out there and get it done. I don't want to, there's a part of me that doesn't even want to think about it. I just want to do it. Bang, bang, bang. I want to do it, right? And there's another part of you that, of course, might be hesitating and might be a little bit having some self-doubt and not quite sure. And so I think it's quite a nice combination having Saturn and Mars together, because, you know, Saturn is bringing in that sense of, well, can you be responsible as you make these new decisions? You know, is it going to impact other people, yourself, your life? Have you thought it through how these impacts are going to happen? Maybe just cool your jets for a minute. Do you really have to do it in the next 24 hours? Wouldn't it be just as good if you took another week or 2 weeks before you acted upon it? So because Mercury is retrograde also in Aries, it's a big Aries party happening at the minute, because Mercury is retrograde, in terms of stopping to reflect and just sit with some new decision that you're ready to make, you think you're ready to make, you're not quite sure, but you're certainly playing with it, right? You might be quite fixated on exploring it and trying to work out what to do and how to go about making it happen in your life. So with Mercury retrograde happening at the same time, because it started retrograding about a week before this eclipse, and it's going to continue for another 2 weeks. You could certainly use the cycles of the cosmos to, you know, kind of plan out that a bit. You can go, all right, well, Mercury retrograde is happening still officially for another 2 weeks. So I know that means that new ideas, new ways of understanding and perceiving, you know, decisions, life moments, etc., can come up for me individually. So if this decision that I want to make now, tomorrow, is delayed for 2 weeks, and giving myself the opportunity to have these moments of reflection come into my consciousness, which might change how I then move forward. You know, I might adapt or be a bit flexible about what I'm going to do with what I think I'm doing today, but 2 weeks from now, after Mercury retro, you know, will that change things? So that's one way of giving yourself a bit of a time frame to perhaps calm that urgent sense of, I need to do it now. And some things do need to be done right now, let's face it, right? But not all things. And the other thing is then the Mercury retrograde shadow would go for another 2 weeks. So that basically takes you to the second week of May. So you could wait until then and see what other gems of delight come up into your consciousness that might slightly adapt your plans that you have right now today. So that's kind of in concert with the Saturn and Mars together. You know, how are you going to be responsible? What is your responsibility versus other people's responsibilities? Where do you need to draw boundaries? Do you have a strong foundation is the main thing. Do you have a strong foundation to launch yourself into this new arena that you're emerging into, right? What are you going to launch into? Is there a strong foundation? And if there isn't, Saturn would certainly recommend that you get one, that you start putting things in place, you start doing some stepping stones to, really it's about making that final leap a more successful leap. It's something that can actually last for the long term. It's sustainability. So Saturn is kind of putting the brakes on Mars, who wants to go, go, go. And just saying to us all, really, just take a minute. Do you want to take a minute and just sit back and reflect on that for a minute? Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is Ceres, which is square to the nodal axis at the minute. So I've spoken about where there might be fear coming up or changes that you need to make. But what I haven't spoken about is the South Node in Libra. So some of those changes and even some of those fears and anxieties could be based on relationships you have with other people versus you, you know, because Aries and Libra is all about me versus we. And could some of your hesitation about making this new decision or this new way of launching yourself or this new identity that you want to get happening or this new project or initiative, how do you want to show up differently in your life? Is some of your reluctance to act on that or hesitation actually about you contemplating within yourself and kind of forecasting how other people in your life might respond? And if their response is going to be negative, because sometimes when we're acting in our authenticity, other people don't like it. But that's the nature of being authentic, is that your response to that is, don't care, this is authentically me, I be me, you be you, right? So with the South Node in Libra, there could be an over consideration of what other people, how they're going to respond, how it impacts them. And I'm not saying 100% just jettison everybody else who you've got responsibilities for in life, kids, partners, animals, whatever it is, right? Job, etc. I'm not saying just jettison anything you've got responsibilities for, so that you're free to do your Aries thing and be the leader of your life and charge off and trailblaze, right? I'm not saying that. In fact, Saturn is definitely not saying it. What I'm saying is maybe there's a way of finding a middle range there. And I'm also saying, what if those relationships, those other relationships, families, partners, whatever, are the thing that is stopping you from doing this other thing you really want to do? So there might be a paradox here where you need to really wrestle with, am I people pleasing, which is a South Node Libra kind of deal, right? Am I going along to get along to keep peace? Again, a South Node thing. And in essence, it's about you prioritizing other people's needs and values, etc., over your own, and almost always at the expense of your own. Aries doesn't like that. It doesn't want to do it at the expense of itself, which is where the North Node is saying, go this way, go this way, go this way. And codependency also with Libra, where, you know, as soon as you've got codependency, you've got a situation where nobody can be honest because there's a power dynamic there that is literally shutting down any kind of honest, transparent conversation. So you might be kind of playing with some of those ideas about others restricting you in ways that aren't okay. I mean, what is reasonable in terms of accommodating other people versus accommodating yourself? You know, I mean, what is the kind of reasonable balance for you personally? And it's different for everyone. We're all going to have a different answer to that, depending on who we are and what we've lived and da-da-da-da, right? So back to, I'm talking Ceres, but just let me make it a little bit clearer. As that conversation goes on with yourself and the paradoxes are perhaps revealed about where it's their needs over my needs and trying to get it all to fit and juggling it together is really tricky. And sometimes it's impossible and you're left in a situation where you go, it doesn't matter how I try and change this, I can't fix it. For the next however many years of my life, this is the situation. The kids are still at a certain age, they're not going to grow up any faster. It's not an option to get rid of the kids, so I have to keep them. If I have to keep them, then I have to go along with this for X number of years. So part of the energy that's happening with Ceres now is, as this whole inner exploration is going on within you, you may reach points of awareness where you sort of have to accept, need to accept, are forced to accept. This is the situation right now. I can make this change or this change to it, but other bits I literally can't change it. I'm tearing my hair out. There is no other way that I can change it. And given I can't change it, and given I can't walk away from it, then what do? I have to grieve. I have to shed tears over the fact that I've got this loss of freedom, over the fact that I'm maybe feeling trapped about something. But because of all these other factors, I've got no choice. I just have to go with it. So grieve. Let yourself grieve. If things come up and you go, you know, it's just I miss that freedom, and I cannot have it right now, and I really miss it, let yourself grieve it. Accept the fact that that freedom is not available to you right now, but still let yourself really grieve it. Shake the camera one more time. And then as you're grieving, what happens? We need nurturance, we need care, we need self-care. And also grief and loss, they're not processed in 2 minutes. Mostly that's not done and dusted in a week. They can take weeks and weeks of processing and allowing yourself to be sad, to be depressed, to be feeling wretched, whatever the feels are, right? Allow yourself to feel the feels, as the kids say, feel the feels. But allow yourself to come up, to feel whatever does authentically come up for you, because that is part of your grieving for whatever it is we were just talking about. And then doing the self-care for yourself. How do you do that when you're already feeling quite overburdened by this or this? Or how do you do that when you've got stress coming out of yourself left, right and centre, and you haven't got a minute to yourself? Like, how do you find a way to be caring to other people and to nurture them and also you, and working out whose responsibility is it anyway? You know, is that bit over there, can I outsource that to you? That's your problem. I don't want to buy into it. So again, it can be about boundaries of, like, even if it's just for the short term, and hopefully this is a situation that's only going on short term for you. Even if it is for the short term, something like, you know, for the next few months, I'm always going to say no to this, this and this, because that little bit of time, I need it for me. I know I need to self-care right now. I know it's really important. I understand that I'm in a really difficult cycle of my life, and I have to keep going with it. I don't have any choice, right? So therefore, how do I self-care along the way? Do I have any resources around me, people that I can turn to? Reaching out for an astro session, reaching out for counselling. You know, do I have any resources? Is there any way that I can invest in self-care to bring more of it into my life? And frankly, if you get to the point where you just go, no, the money's not there, I can't do it, I don't have any time anyway, you just need to cry and just go, yeah, I'm on my own for this. There is no way around that. Right now, I'm soldiering this on my own and I have no choice. Well, I do have a choice. I choose to go along with this anyway, even though I understand it's really hard and life feels really burdensome. I'm still going to go along with it and accept that for the next few months, the self-care that I'd like to do, I just can't do it. And somehow I have to soldier on. And I will pledge to myself that I will take every spare minute where I can find it to actually give myself some nurturance of what I need. And, you know, a really good thing too is to reach out for fun as a way of re-enlivening yourself and just kind of filling your tank a bit, right? Bit of fun, bit of play, bit of fun. If you can sneak that in wherever you possibly can, perhaps reach out to friends who you know are really fun and lighthearted, and spend the little spare time you do have with them, so you do get your tank replenished a bit. That's my thoughts on that. And I realise I've finished on a little bit of a Debbie Downer kind of note. And it may not come up for many of you, I hope it doesn't, but for those of you who are feeling like you've been struggling for the last few months, certainly, you know, I know lots of people have had waves from really from July onwards Different people have had waves of major kind of life issues coming up for them. And it might be to do with health, it might be an injury, it might be family, it might be work, it could be in housing, it could be any area of your life. But they're things that they're kind of situations that can't be resolved just like that. You can't just click your finger and it's done, right? There's sort of situations that have this dragging on kind of element where you can't quite resolve them, can't quite fix them, they drag on a bit. And along the way, your tank can feel like it's getting increasingly empty. And as I said, from July onwards, there's been groups that have gone through in July and October, November, December, and as recently as February, people are finding these situations in their lives where life is feeling like a burden, right? With Chiron in Aries, conjunct the North Node, I mentioned before about ancestral healing, and I do think that is one of the, we in the collective, we do have this encouragement to heal some of these deeper wounds. Because I have multiple hats as an astrologer and art therapist and coach and stuff, I'm always on board with the emotional states that might be going along with some of these changes happening in life. And so it might be a time to be super aware that you're feeling vulnerable or insecure about something. And please keep in mind that the reason why it's come up into your consciousness is because your consciousness, your psyche, is ready to start to process, heal, integrate, and resolve it. It's a good thing. It doesn't feel like it, but it's a good thing. And it might be a layer of an issue that you've dealt with many times through the years. That's completely fine. If it's a layer, it's a layer. It's a good thing it's up. Walk towards it, lean into it if you possibly can, to allow the processing to happen and free yourself coming out the other side. Okay, if you want to hook up with me on social media, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, please perhaps drop me a heart bomb to help the algorithm along. Have a brilliant new moon, solar eclipse. See you next time. Bye for now.